Welcome back to another one of our walkthroughs. This week we are going to look at Chapter 12. So if you notice down here, Week 10 module, Chapter 12. Like last week, I do recommend that you go down to the module, that you click on My Lab IT course content. Once again, the reason I do recommend that you guys do that, it will give you the ability to check your score and see what you got right or wrong as soon as you submit it. So it just makes it a little bit easier. Go ahead and come down here to your Chapter 12. From Chapter 12, let's go ahead and click on our letter and resume, our homework here. And we'll go ahead and download our materials. And as I told you guys last week, I highly recommend that you do not download all files. When you download all files, it downloads a zip file. Sometimes makes it a little bit more difficult to do the work and submit it. So I do recommend that you click on each individual file individually. And then notice if you're using Google Chrome, what's really cool is the downloaded files will show up down here. And you want to make sure you pick the file with your last name. That is the one that we're working on. And make sure you hit Enable Editing. I'm going to go ahead and zoom this in a little bit, make it a little bit easier for you to see. So here is our downloaded file. Once again, just kind of go over the interface a little bit. We do have our tabs up here at the top. Home tab, Insert tab. I know for my Mac users it does look a little bit differently. You have to go all the way to the top of your screen to see some of these options. And then under each tab you do have your groupings, which I will be calling out as we go on. So for step number 2, it wants us to add a file name to the footer. That's something that we're going to do in pretty much all of our assignments. And it's pretty simple. We're going to go to the Insert tab. Anytime you want to insert something, we come up here to our Insert tab. And then from our Insert tab, we come to our header footer grouping, click on header footer, and we'll go down to Edit Footer. Once we get down to our Edit Footer, notice how we're now down in our footer. Notice that we are in our header footer contextual tab up here. And to insert the file name, we go to our insert grouping here and we click on document info file name. And once again, the reason why we put in our file name this way is because if we change the name of this file, it will automatically update this. I know that may not be important so much for our homework assignment, but as you're working on lots of documents, if you're working for an organization that has lots of documents, having to rename them, it would be very burdensome to have to come in here and rename this later on. Alright, so once we've got our file name in there, we're going to go ahead and hit Close Header Footer. If you do not have it turned on already, notice how I do have these paragraph marks in here. Remember, those paragraph marks are where you hit Enter. It's a new paragraph. To turn those on, you come to your paragraph grouping here. You turn on this little mark right here. It's called Show Hide. And also, you want to go to the View tab, and you want to make sure you have a check mark next to the ruler. We always want to turn the rulers on. If you turned them on last week, most likely they are turned on this week. It's a setting that usually is saved. So the reason why we turn these on is it makes it easier for us to follow the instructions. So if we look at step number 2, it says on page 1, click the blank paragraph below the letterhead and hit Enter 2 times. So it wants me to hit Enter 2 times. So 1, 2. Alright, so once we've hit Enter 2 times, notice that our cursor is right before this page break. We have 2 enters right here. We have 2 paragraphs above it. So for here, we want to use the date and time command to insert our current date in the 3rd format. Once again, anytime you want to insert something, let's go to our Insert tab. Under our Insert tab, under our text grouping here, we're going to find where it says Date and Time. I'm going to go ahead and click on Date and Time, and it said it wanted us to use the 3rd format. So 1, 2, so it says October 20, 2020. So right here, this 3rd one down, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And notice now it puts the date in for me. Once again, the reason why we put the date in this way instead of typing it in is because later on, if we were to use this letter for something, it would automatically update that date. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit enter 2 times. So 1, 2. Notice that I only have one paragraph and mark in between. The other one is up here. It wants me to put in Miss, period, Mary Walker. Oops. Make sure you spell it properly. Spelling does count in these assignments. Walker dash Hulsman, comma, space, director. So once I've typed that in, it wants me to hit enter once. And it wants me to type in Fort Port Community College Career Center. And once I've typed that in, it wants me to hit enter again. And it wants me to type in 2745 Oakland Avenue. It actually wants me to type in Avenue. Hit enter again, and it's in St. Petersburg, comma, 1 space, capital FL for Florida, space 33713. And then it wants me to hit enter. So now it wants me to select the first 3 lines of the inside address. So I'm assuming the inside address is these 3 right here. It wants me to highlight these 3 lines right here, the first 3 lines. And it wants me to set my spacing after to 0 point. Well, that's going to be something in formatting. So I'm going to come to my home tab here. It's going to be under my paragraph grouping. And I'm going to click on this little guy right here, my paragraph settings dialog box. Once this is up, notice that I have spacing before and after here. And it wanted me to change the spacing after to 0 point. So I'm just going to use the down arrow to make this 0 point and hit OK. And notice that will bring all of these letters closer together. Now it says for step number 3, it wants me to click on the paragraph below the inside address. So right here, where it says the page break, right before the page break, it wants me to type in Dear Miss, period, space, Walker Hulsman, dash Hulsman. Wants me to put a colon in there, so I'm going to hit the colon. Make sure you put a colon, not a semicolon. And then hit enter. And like last week, or our last assignment, it wants us to insert text from a file. So instead of having to type this whole body of the text, it wants me to go to the Insert tab here. From the Insert tab, under my texting group, and once again, this may look a little different to you than me. You want to hover over the icon that says Object. You may not see Object, you may just see the icon. Go ahead and hit the down arrow and hit Text from File. If you used Google Chrome, it should be under Downloads. And here it is, our W12G text. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and hit Insert. And it will insert the body of the text for us. And if you look closely, you'll notice there are several misspellings that we're going to have to fix, which we're going to do later on in the assignment. So now it says insert the text from file and press the backspace 1 time to remove the blank line at the bottom. So I've inserted the text. I'm going to hit the backspace key once, and it's going to get rid of that blank line down at the bottom. And we are done with step number 3. For step number 4, it wants me to do Control Home. So for my Mac users, this may be a little bit different. For my Windows users, I'm going to hold down the Control key and hit Home. Notice that it takes me to the top of my document. For my Mac users, just go ahead and come up here and click at the very top of the document. It wants me to go to the Review tab, so I'm going to go to my Review tab. And it wants me to go to my proofing group, which is right here, the very front proofing group here. And depending on your version of Word or Office, it's either going to say spell grammar or it's going to say editor. For me, it says editor, so I'm going to go ahead and click on editor. It's going to bring up my little editor sidebar. It's going to tell me that I have 4 spelling errors and 1 grammar issue. And it wants me to take the appropriate action for each of the flagged items. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my spelling errors. And notice when I click on spelling errors, it's going to highlight the word website. Notice how it's misspelled. So I want to correct it and click on the correct one, so the website right here. Once I click on it, notice how it changed it and it moved me down to the next one. It wants me to fix this formatting section right here. It looks like there's a missing comma. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. It's going to fix it for me. Oh no, it took the capital F and made it a lowercase f. Now it wants me to change the word would because it's misspelled. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my suggestion over here. It's going to take me down to the bottom here. That is not a word, it's an acronym. So I want to keep that one actually. So I'm going to go ahead and come, oh, that's my last spelling error. So that's it, I'm done. I don't want to change this one. I want to leave that the way it is. And I'm going to go ahead and just exit out of my editor. Just hit this X button here. And now, that is the wrong misspelling of wood. To change that, I'm going to go ahead and right click on it. And I'm just going to go ahead and change it right here. So you can just right click on the word and hit the change, wood, and fix that. And it says, I currently live in Tampa, comma, space, but would be willing to relocate. So I could go ahead and right click on that. And let's go ahead and change it right here and get rid of that comma. Boom. So now, if you notice, all of those squiggly lines are gone. So, moving back to step number 5, it wants me to do Control Home again. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Home. For my Mac users, you can just click on the very top of the document. This is not such a useful key command, Control Home, when working on a small document like this. But say you're working on a dissertation that is 100 pages long, scrolling all the way to the top of the document is a little bit more cumbersome. Using Control Home will take you up there immediately without having to do all the scrolling. So once I'm back here at the top of my document, it wants me to replace all of the instances of posting with listings. So let's go ahead and go to our Home tab here. And from the Home tab, under my editing group over here, it wants me to click on Replace. Now there are often times where you will find a better choice of a word and you want to replace it everywhere in a document very easily. And this is how you can do that. So you come into your Replace, and what are we going to find? We're going to find posting. And we're going to replace posting with listing. So right here, we're going to find what posting, replace it with listing. And I'm going to go ahead and hit this Replace All button. And notice that it says, well done. We made 3 replacements. So in one fell swoop, it went through the entire document, found all the instances of the posting, and it automatically replaced it with listing. So I'm done. I can hit OK, and then I can go ahead and hit Close. For step number 6, in the letter, in the paragraph that begins with the job description, it wants me to use the thesaurus pane to find synonyms. So I'm a man of limited words, and I use the thesaurus. I can't even say it properly, but I use the thesaurus to make myself sound a lot smarter than I really am. So if you notice that you're using the same words over and over, you can come down here and let's say it wants me to go to the job description. So here's the job description, and it says specific. And it wants me to change specific to explicit. So very simple. I'm just going to find where it says specific. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to select synonyms, and I'm going to go to my thesaurus right here. When I click on that, notice that I get my thesaurus side pane here. And notice that I'm not going to click on it, but notice under exact right here it says explicit. So I'm going to hit the down arrow next to it, and I'm going to hit insert. And what that's going to do is it's going to change specific to explicit. Now it also wants me to change credentials to qualifications. So right here I'd like to point out my credentials. I'm going to go ahead and click on credentials. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to go to synonyms again, and I'm going to hit thesaurus. Notice that in my sidebar here it opens up my thesaurus again, this time with the credentials. And I want to find the one that says qualifications. So I'm going to hover down through here. Here it is, qualifications. I'm going to hit the down arrow again and hit insert. So as you're writing a research paper, as you're writing a letter, if you need to use different words, vary your words a little bit, you can use this thesaurus to find similar words to go into your document. I'm going to go ahead and close out on my thesaurus. We're done with that. And on step number 7, in the paragraph that begins with "I currently live in Tampa," it wants me to move this sentence. So one thing that's really cool about Microsoft Office is if you notice that maybe something doesn't just jive right, maybe the flow of something doesn't look right, you can actually move items within a document. So instead of having to delete this and retype it in at the end of the document, it just wants me to move it. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight it. Once I highlight it, I'm going to click on it and I'm going to drag it. And notice that I have this little black insertion point following me around. I'm just going to go to the end of the document or the end of the line and let go. And notice that it now moved "I currently live in Tampa" to the very end of that paragraph. So a very easy way, and you can do that with anything. You can move any of these items anywhere you wanted to by highlighting it, clicking on it, and dragging it. Alright, so we're done with step number 7. Alright, so for step number 8, it says click at the beginning of the paragraph. So I'm going to go ahead and find where it says "I could be available." Let's see, right here. "I could be available," right here. It says click at the beginning of this paragraph and hit enter. So now I have this blank line right here. It wants me to hit the up arrow key to go up to that blank line, or you can just click on it, one of the two. And it wants me to insert a 2x3 table. So once again, anytime that you want to insert something, you're going to come up here to our insert group. From the insert group, I'm going to click on table, and I'm going to hover over until I get 2x3, which is right here, 2x3. Notice I just hover over the boxes and select the table that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Notice how it puts in that little table for me. And now I want to type in what it wants me to type in step number 8. So first box, education. Make sure you capitalize that E. Hit the down arrow. Type in experience. You want to try to get out of the habit of using your mouse when typing this stuff in. So instead of grabbing your mouse and clicking it to the next box, use your arrow keys. It makes things run a little bit faster. Make sure you capitalize the R and the C for required certifications. Using my arrow keys, I'm going to go over 1, up 2. And I'm going to type in Bachelor of Science. Once again, paying attention to your case. Gotta make sure I spell science right, because the Lord knows I don't want to get a bad grade. Comma, space, business management. Hit the down arrow key, and it wants 2 years. Computer support. Man, I cannot type today. Support experience at a major university. I'm going to hit my down arrow again, and I'm going to type in MCSA space DI reporting, comma, space MCSA Microsoft Dynamics 365. And I'm just going to go ahead and double check, make sure everything looks good. Bachelor of Science, Business Management, make sure everything's capitalized right. 2 years computer support experience at a major university, and MCSA BI reporting, and then MCSA Microsoft Dynamics 365. So I just want to make sure all of that is typed in properly. So once I have all of that typed in, I want to make this look a little bit nicer. As of right now, it's not looking so great. My spacing's a little off. It just doesn't look very professional. So it wants me to select the entire table for step number 9. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this little icon at the top of my table. When I click on it, notice how it selects the entire table. And it wants me to auto-fit the contents. So I'm going to come up here to my Table Tools and Table Design contextual tabs. I want to click on Layout. Under Layout, there's an Auto-Fit button right here. I'm going to click on Auto-Fit, and it wants me to auto-fit to contents. And notice how it makes it look a little bit nicer, and it gets rid of all the weird spacing, makes it look a little bit more professional. It also wants me to apply the Table Grid Light table style. So I'm going to go ahead and come to my Table Design tab now. For my Table Design tab, under Table Styles, I'm going to click on this More button with the arrow with a line above it. And under Table Grid Light, Plain Tables, First Row, First Style. Alright, so notice that my table is still completely selected. It wants me to center the table. So I'm going to go ahead and come to my Home tab here. From my Home tab, under Paragraph Grouping, I'm going to hit the Center button right here. Notice that it will center my table. And it wants me to select the blank paragraph mark below the table. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this blank paragraph mark here. And it wants me to apply the spacing after to 0 points. Well, that's under my Home tab. It's under my paragraph grouping. I want to click on this little icon right here and change my spacing after to 0. And it just kind of makes my spacing a little bit less here. So this document's looking pretty nice. Our letter's coming along pretty nice. This is a cover letter that you're for a job that you would be applying to. All right, we're on page 2 of our instructions, step number 10. It wants us to go to our resume on page 2. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to my resume on page 2. And it wants me to insert a new second row. So I'm going to go ahead and just click somewhere in this first row right here. I'm just going to click somewhere in here. Notice that my cursor is right there. I'm going to come up here to my Table Design tab. Or I apologize, my Layout tab here. And I want to go to my rows and columns, and I want to click Insert Below. Notice that will give me a new second row. In the left column, it wants me to type objective in all caps. Once I've typed objective, I'm going to hit the tab key. Notice that the tab key will take me over to this second blank cell right here. And it wants me to type in quite a bit of text. I'm just going to go ahead for this text here. I'm going to copy and paste it. So once it's the type objective here, all caps, And then in this section here, to obtain a business programmer analysis position that will use my technical and communication skills and computer support experience. Make sure that business programmer analysis, the first word is capitalized. So once I now have that typed in, it says add a 12-point spacing after the text you just typed. So I want to put my cursor right back here. So put my cursor after this E. It wants me to apply a 12-point spacing after. So I'm going to come to my Home tab here. Under my Home tab, under Paragraph, I'm going to click on this little guy in my Paragraph Settings dialog box. And spacing after to 12 points. And go ahead and hit OK. And notice that it will put some space here for me. Alright, so now it also wants us to apply bold to the word objective. So I'm going to come up here to the word objective, I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to hold down my control key and hit B for bold. For Mac users, it's most likely Command B. For Windows users, it's Control B. Or you can come to the Home tab under the font group. You can just hit this B for bold right here. So now it wants us to select the entire resume. So I'm going to go ahead, same thing I did with that table on page 1. I'm going to click on this little icon right here up here at the top. When I click on it, it selects the entire table. Once the entire table is selected, it wants me to apply the AutoFit contents. So we did that once. It's under our Layout tab here. From our Layout tab, our Contextual Layout tab, AutoFit, and we're going to AutoFit to Contents. It also wants us to remove the table borders. So I'm going to go ahead and come to my Home tab here. Under my Home tab, under the Paragraph grouping, I'm going to click the line next to borders right here, this borders icon. And I'm going to click on No Borders. We're going to be continuing to work with the formatting of this table. And it's going to make it hard because we don't know where the cells are. So we can come back up here to our paragraph grouping. We can hit this down arrow again. And here we can click on this thing that says View Grid Lines. And what that'll do is it'll, just like our Show Hide button, it will show where our borders, our cells would be if we had a border. So if you click on that and view grid lines, these won't print up. These are just to make it easier for you to edit your document. So now that we've done that, for step number 11, it still wants us to apply a custom single line border to the top of the table. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to my paragraph grouping. I'm going to hit the down arrow again. I'm going to come down to my borders and shading, which is going to open up my borders and shading dialog box. It wants me to make sure this says apply to table. It wants me to put a line at the top of the document right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. And it wants me to change that to a 1.5 points. So right here where it says width, I'm going to change that to 1.5 points. And I'm going to click on it again. Notice how it makes it a little bit thicker of a line up there. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And notice, if done properly, I'm going to go ahead and deselect my table. Notice that I have one border, one line here at the top. Alright, so for step number 12, it wants me to merge the two cells in the first row. So right here, notice that I have two cells in this row. It wants me to merge these together. To do that, in my blank cell here, I'm going to click hold, and I'm going to drag all the way over. Notice when I drag over to the first cell, it highlights both cells. I'm going to come up here to my Layout tab. Under my Layout tab, I'm going to click on Merge Cells. Notice that it will merge, and both of those are now together. It wants me to center. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my Home tab. I'm going to click on the paragraph marking here, the paragraph grouping, I want to hit center. Notice it will now center my lines. It wants me to apply bold. So under my font grouping here, under the home tab, I want to hit bold, or I can hold down Control and hit B for bold. Now it wants me to select just William Franklin. So I'm going to highlight the word William Franklin, the name William Franklin. It wants me to change the font size to 20. So I'm going to come back to my font group here, click on 20. It wants me to add a 12-point spacing before. So I'm going to come to my paragraph grouping here. I'm going to click on this little guy right there, my paragraph dialog box. And spacing before, I'm going to change it to 24 point and hit OK. Then I'm going to go ahead and click at the end of the email address down here at the bottom, right here, this W. Franklin. I'm going to click after the end of it, and it wants me to add a 12-point spacing after. So I'm going to come back to my paragraph grouping here, click on the little dot, and change the spacing after to 24 points and hit OK. And what that did is notice how it gave me a padding of space around my contact information. For step number 13, to this right of the cell that says relevant experience. So I'm going to go ahead and where it says relevant experience right here, highlight all of this right here from provided local and remote desktop support. Oops. All the way down to analyze and resolve network problems. It wants me to highlight all of that. It wants me to put in bullets. So under my paragraph grouping here, I'm just going to click on the bullets icon, and it's going to put in my standard round bullets. And it wants me to do a similar bulleted list under computer technician. So I'm going to highlight installed all the way down to peripherals, and I'm going to put that same bulleted list in there. So now it bulletizes all the things that I did under those positions. And we're pretty much done now. I'm going to go ahead and show you the document. This is what we have. We have our cover letter, and we have our resume, which kind of came in here pretty nicely. We're just going to go ahead and add in a few document properties, and we're going to submit our assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my File tab. Remember, for Mac users, you have to click on the one at the very top. I'm going to click on my Info group, and I'm going to click on Show All Properties. It says as a tag, I want to do cover letter. So where it says tags right here, add a tag. I'm going to type in cover. Oh, I got all caps there. I need to take off my caps lock. So cover letter. Make sure it's all lowercase, comma, 1 space, resume. And then for the subject, where it says specify the subject, I'm going to just type in CGS. And right here where it says author, it wants me to make sure that I have my name in there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. I'm going to right click on it, hit remove person. And then I'm going to go ahead and under author, I'm going to type in my name. And that's it. I'm done. I'm going to save my work. I'm going to save it again for good measure. I'm going to go ahead and minimize it so I know where it's at. I'm going to close out of my downloading starting materials. I'm going to click on choose file. Once again, it should be under the downloads folder. So let me scroll down to downloads. And there it is. There's my Word document. I'm going to hit open, upload, and submit for grading. And then I'm going to go ahead and close my assignment. Well, if that doesn't work, I'm just going to come up here and close this last tab where it says test. Here it is, my submitted file. I'm going to hit the 3 dots here and hit view submissions. This is the reason why I wanted you to go this way. And when I check my submissions, I got a 99.3. How embarrassing. Actually, that's not bad, because now it'll give me a chance to show you what it looks like if you get something wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and click on submission 1. It's going to open up what I did wrong and right. Notice that I have a red arrow here. I can click the down arrow, and it says in the paragraph beginning with Florida Port Community College Career Center, the text was not set to Florida Port Community College Career Center. Interesting. I'm going to go ahead and open up my file. That's why I leave it open. And, oh, I typed in Fort instead of Florida. So right here, notice that I typed in Fort instead of Florida. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. Florida, Fort Community College Career Center. I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to minimize my document again. I'm going to go ahead and click out of this little guy right here. I'm going to go ahead and resubmit this. Let's see if that works. I'm going to click on my Word letter resume. I'm going to go ahead and choose my file again. I'm going to select my student file, hit open, upload, and I'm going to go ahead and hit submit for grading and close out of this. And now I'm going to check my second submission. I'm going to hit the three dots here, view submission. And now I have 100%. I feel validated. That makes me happy. Feel free, if you get a lower than 100, if you want to go back and fix your grade, you're more than welcome to. You can submit this for as many times as you want for the best grade possible. And like always, have a wonderful day.